6 months had passed since the discovery in the Arctic ice. The small research station had become the most important place on Earth, though most people still did not know it existed. Minho stood in the new underground facility that had been built around the Veltar ship. Military personnel, scientists, and engineers from around the world worked alongside the three aliens, preparing for humanity's greatest challenge. How many governments know about this now? Minho asked General Park, the military commander who had taken charge of the project. 12, the general replied. The major powers agreed to work together on this. They understand that national borders won't matter if the devourers arrive. The cooperation between countries had surprised everyone. When faced with the threat of extinction, humans had put aside their differences faster than anyone expected. Yuna was in the main laboratory, working with Vorik on weapons technology. The alien scientist was teaching her how their energy systems worked. But she was teaching him something too. This is not how we would design this, Vorik said, looking at Yuna's modifications to his weapon design. I know, Yuna replied. Your design is more efficient and uses less energy. But my design is unpredictable. It can work in 3 different ways depending on how we use it. Why would you want unpredictable weapons? Because if we don't know exactly how they'll work, then the devourers definitely won't know either. This had become the pattern in their work together. The Veltar would share their advanced technology, and the humans would modify it in ways that seemed crazy, but somehow worked better. Jisoo had become the main communication link between the human governments and the Veltar. She spent her days translating not just languages, but entire ways of thinking. The Veltar don't understand why we want to broadcast a message to the devourers when they arrive, she explained to the International Council during a video conference. In their culture, you only communicate with enemies when you're ready to surrender. What did you tell them? Asked the representative from the United States. I told them that humans like to talk trash before a fight, Jisoo said with a small smile. They found that concept very interesting. The most surprising developments were happening in Hyun's engineering section. He had been working with Telesh to understand Veltar spacecraft technology, but their collaboration had produced something neither species had imagined. Show me again how the human jet engines work, Telesh requested. Hyun pulled up a holographic display of a military fighter jet. We burn fuel to create thrust. It's loud, inefficient, and produces a lot of heat. Your ships are much better. But your engines can be repaired with simple tools, Telesh observed. They use materials that are common on your world. Our engines are more advanced, but if they break, they require special materials and complex manufacturing. So? Hyun asked. So we need weapons and ships that humans can fix and rebuild quickly during a long battle. Your primitive technology might be more practical than our advanced systems. This realization had led to a new approach. Instead of simply copying Veltar technology, they were creating hybrid systems that combined the best of both species' approaches. The new ships looked like nothing that had ever existed. They had the sleek lines of Veltar design, but they were built with human engineering principles that prioritized repairability and adaptability over pure efficiency. The test pilot says the ship responds like a living thing, reported Commander Kim, the head of the flight testing program. It feels more like riding a horse than flying a machine. Is that good or bad? Minho asked. For human pilots, it's perfect. We're used to working with machines that have personality and require skill to operate well. Nethys had been spending most of her time studying human military history and culture. What she learned continued to surprise her. I do not understand this concept you call morale, she told Minho during one of their regular meetings. It's about fighting spirit, Minho explained. How motivated people feel to keep fighting even when things look bad. But why does motivation matter? Either you can defeat your enemy or you cannot. Humans can often defeat enemies they shouldn't be able to defeat if they believe strongly enough in their cause. Nethys had been studying recordings of human battles throughout history. Your species has many examples of small forces defeating larger ones through superior motivation and unusual tactics. That's the plan, Minho said. We might not be able to match the devourers in technology or numbers, but we can be more motivated and more unpredictable. The Veltar had also been learning about human concepts like humor, stubbornness, and spite. These ideas did not exist in their culture, but they were beginning to understand how powerful they could be. Humans will continue fighting just to prove that they cannot be beaten, Vorik observed. Even when victory is impossible, they will fight to make their enemy pay a high price for winning. We call it going down swinging, Yuna explained. This attitude terrifies the Devourers, Telesh added. They prefer enemies who calculate odds and surrender when defeat is certain. They do not know how to handle enemies who fight harder when losing. As the months passed, the preparation took on a desperate urgency. The monitoring stations that Keith had established throughout the solar system began detecting signs of approaching ships. They're coming, Keith announced during a meeting of the project leaders. Long-range sensors show a Devourer fleet approximately 8 months away. How big is the fleet? General Park asked. Larger than any we have seen them send to a single world, Keth replied. Over 300 ships, including several planet-killer vessels. The room fell silent. Everyone knew that humanity had built fewer than 50 ships and none of them had been tested in real combat. Are we ready? Minho asked. Hyun looked around at his fellow engineers and scientists. Our ships are better than we hoped, but we don't have enough of them. Our weapons are more effective than Veltar technology alone, Yuna added. But we don't know if they'll work against Devourer defenses. Our pilots are trained and motivated, Commander Kim said. But they've never fought against an enemy like this. General Park stood up and looked around the room at humans and aliens working side by side. Then we'll have to be good enough with what we have. Nethys spoke up from her corner of the room. The Devourers expect to find a frightened species begging for mercy. Instead, they will find humans who have spent a year preparing to fight. What should we tell them when they arrive? Jisoo asked. Minho thought about all the work they had done, all the cooperation between species and nations, all the impossible problems they had solved through stubbornness and creativity. We tell them the truth, he said. We tell them that they picked the wrong species to threaten. Vorik had been quiet during the meeting, but now he stood and spoke in his musical language. Keth translated his words. He says that in all their history the Veltar have never had hope before a battle with the Devourers, but watching humans prepare for this fight has given him something he has never felt before. What's that? Yuna asked. The belief that the enemy can be defeated. Outside the facility, the first snows of winter were beginning to fall. In 8 months, those same skies would be filled with alien ships bringing humanity's greatest test. But in the underground laboratories and workshops, humans and aliens continued working together, building weapons of hope and determination that the galaxy had never seen before. The next 3 days changed everything the human team thought they knew about the universe. Nethys and her companions shared stories of worlds beyond Earth, of civilizations that had risen and fallen among the stars. Minho sat in the ship's main room, watching Vorik demonstrate their technology. The alien scientist could make objects float in the air with just his thoughts. Screens appeared from nothing, showing information in ways humans had never imagined. This is how we travel between stars, Vorik explained through Keth's translation. The air above them showed a model of their ship moving through space faster than light itself. How is that possible? Hyun asked. He had been studying their technology for hours, trying to understand how it worked. We fold space, Telesh said. Instead of moving through distance, we bring distant places closer together. Jisoo was working with Keth to learn the Veltar language. She had always been good with languages, but this was unlike anything human. The way they think is so different from us, she told the others. But it was Yuna who asked the most important question. Tell us about the Devourers. We need to know what we're facing. Nethys became very serious. The air around them filled with new images, showing creatures that looked like nightmares. The Devourers were tall and dark, with too many arms and eyes that glowed red. Their ships were massive and black, like holes in space itself. They are old, Nethys began, older than most civilizations in the galaxy. They were once like other species, living on a single world. But something changed them millions of years ago. What changed them? Minho asked. Hunger, Keth translated. Not for food, but for knowledge and life energy. They learned to consume the essence of other beings, making themselves stronger and smarter with each civilization they destroyed. The images showed Devourer fleets attacking beautiful worlds. Cities burned, forests died, and entire species disappeared. It was the same pattern repeated across thousands of worlds. How many species have they destroyed? Yuna asked quietly. We estimate over 50,000 civilizations, Vorik said. Some were young, like humans were 1,000 years ago. Others were ancient and powerful. It did not matter. The Devourers consumed them all. Hyun studied the pictures of Devourer technology. Their ships were huge, some the size of small moons. Their weapons could destroy planets. How does anyone fight against that? Most don't, Talesh said sadly. When the Devourers arrive at a world, they send a message. Surrender completely, and they will consume the population quickly. Fight back, and they will make the process slow and painful. What do most species choose? Jisoo asked, though she was afraid of the answer. Surrender, Nethys said. Fear makes them give up before the battle even begins. Minho felt anger growing inside him. That's not right. Everyone deserves the chance to fight for their lives. The three Veltar looked at each other with an expression the humans were learning to recognize. It was surprise mixed with something that might have been hope. This is what makes humans different, Keth said. Most species, when they learn about the Devourers, become afraid and start looking for places to hide. Humans hear about an impossible enemy and start planning how to fight. Of course we want to fight, Yuna said. This is our world. These are our people. That attitude is rare in the galaxy, Vorik explained. The Veltar fought, but only after our world was already being attacked. We fought to escape, not to win. You are talking about fighting to protect your home. Nethys worked at one of the control panels, bringing up a star map that showed the galaxy. Red dots marked worlds that had been destroyed by the Devourers. There were thousands of them scattered across the entire galaxy. This is what the galaxy looks like now, she said through Keth. The red areas are Devourer territory. The yellow areas are worlds they have marked for future consumption. The green areas are species that have submitted and served the Devourers willingly. The humans stared at the map. Most of the galaxy was red or yellow. There were very few green areas and almost no unmarked space. Where is Earth? Jisoo asked. Keth highlighted a small area near the edge of the galaxy. It was yellow, marked for future consumption. When were we marked? Minho asked. Your first radio signals reached a Devourer monitoring station 70 years ago, Talesh said. But you were considered low priority because your technology was still primitive. What changed? Hyun asked. Your space program. When humans began leaving your planet and building space stations, the Devourers reclassified Earth as an immediate threat. Immediate threat? Yuna said. We barely have spaceships that can reach our own moon. To species that have been hiding among the stars for millions of years, any species that reaches space is dangerous, Vorik explained. Humans went from no space travel to landing on your moon in just 70 years. That rate of technological growth frightens them. Nethys brought up new images showing human technology advancing over the decades, computers, satellites, space stations, and rovers on other planets. Most species take thousands of years to develop this level of technology, Keth translated. Humans did it in less than one human lifetime. The Devourers have never seen anything like it. Is that good or bad for us? Minho asked. Both, Talesh said. It means they will send a large fleet to make sure you cannot escape. But it also means they do not understand how humans think and fight. The aliens showed them records of other species that had tried to resist the Devourers. Most fought using careful logical strategies. They built defensive positions and tried to protect their most important cities and people. They all lost, Vorik said sadly. Logical strategies do not work against an enemy with overwhelming force. What would work? Hyun asked. The three Veltar looked at each other again. This time their expressions were definitely hopeful. Something unexpected, Nethys said. Something the Devourers have never seen before. Something only humans would think to try. Like what? Jisoo asked. We do not know, Keth said. That is the point. Human minds work differently than ours. You see solutions that we cannot imagine. You take risks that seem impossible to us. Yuna was studying the star map, focusing on the areas marked as Devourer territory. How do we know all this will work? Maybe we're just different enough to fail in a new way. Because, Nethys said, standing and walking to the center of the room. In 300 years of running from the Devourers, we have never seen them retreat from a battle. But yesterday, when I was learning about human history from your internet, I read about something amazing. What? Minho asked. Humans have fought wars against enemies with better technology, larger armies, and more resources. And sometimes humans win anyway. Talesh added, the Devourers expect species to surrender or fight in predictable ways. They have strategies for dealing with every type of resistance they have encountered, but they have never encountered humans. We have 18 months to prepare, Vorik said. 18 months to combine Veltar technology with human creativity. 18 months to build something that has never existed before. What are we building? Hyun asked. Nethys smiled, and for the first time since waking up, she looked truly excited. Hope, Keth translated. We are building hope. The drill bit cut through the ice with a steady hum. Dr. Minho Park watched the machine work, his breath making small clouds in the cold Arctic air. He had been studying ice in this frozen wasteland for 3 years now. The research station sat alone on the white landscape, surrounded by nothing but ice and snow for hundreds of miles. Minho pulled his thick coat tighter around his body. Even after all this time, the cold still surprised him. Back home in Seoul, winter was cold, but nothing like this place. Here, the wind could freeze a person's face in minutes. The other scientists called it the end of the world. Minho just called it Tuesday. How deep are we now? Asked Dr. Yuna Kim. She stood next to him, watching the numbers on the computer screen. Yuna was new to the team. She studied old things buried in the ground, but usually much warmer ground than this. 200 feet, Minho said. We should hit the layer we want soon. The drill was taking ice samples from deep underground. These samples would tell them about the weather from thousands of years ago. It was important work for understanding how the Earth's climate was changing. But today, something was different. The drill made a strange sound. Then it stopped. What happened? Yuna asked. Minho checked the controls. Everything looked normal. He tried to start the drill again, but it would not move. It's stuck on something, he said. Dr. Jisoo Lee came running from the main building. She was the team's communication expert and spoke many languages. Is everything okay? I heard the drill stop. Something is blocking it, Minho explained. Probably just a rock. But when they pulled the drill up, the tip was bent. Whatever was down there was much harder than rock. Minho had never seen anything like it. Dr. Hyun Choi joined them at the drill site. He was the team's engineer and could fix almost anything. Hyun looked at the bent drill tip and shook his head. This metal is very strong. What could do this? Let's use the ground radar, Minho suggested. The radar could see through ice and show them what was buried below. They set up the radar equipment and began scanning the area. The first few scans showed normal ice layers. Then something appeared on the screen that made everyone stop talking. That can't be right, Jisoo said, staring at the monitor. The radar showed a large object buried in the ice. It was not round like a rock or flat like a layer of earth. It had straight edges and curved sections. It looked like it was made by someone, not by nature. How big is it? Yuna asked. Hyun worked with the radar controls, trying to get a better picture. It's huge, maybe 300 feet long and 100 feet wide. And look at this shape. The object on the screen looked like a ship, but not like any ship they had ever seen. It was smooth and had a strange design that seemed to flow like water, even though it was solid metal. This has been here for a very long time, Minho said, looking at the ice layers above the object. Maybe 12,000 years? 12,000 years? Yuna's eyes went wide. That's from the Ice Age. But who could have built something like this back then? The team spent the rest of the day running more scans. Each new picture showed more details of the buried object. It was definitely a ship of some kind, but unlike anything humans had ever built. The metal seemed to be one solid piece with no joints or seams. That night they sat in the warm research station, drinking hot coffee and looking at the radar pictures on Jisoo's computer. We need to tell someone about this, Jisoo said. This could change everything we know about history. Who would believe us? Hyun asked. A spaceship under the ice? They'll think we're crazy. It might not be a spaceship, Minho said carefully. We don't know what it is yet. But Yuna was studying the pictures closely. As someone who studied ancient things, she knew what human-made objects looked like. This isn't human, she said quietly. Look at these designs. No human culture 12,000 years ago could build something like this. The room went quiet. They all knew what she was thinking, but nobody wanted to say it out loud. So what do? Jisoo asked. Minho looked around at his team. They were all smart people, and they all knew they had found something that would change the world. We dig, he said. Carefully. We document everything, and we don't tell anyone until we know what we're dealing with. The next morning they began the slow work of melting through the ice above the object. They used hot water and careful digging to avoid damaging whatever was buried below. It took 3 days to reach the top of the strange ship. When they finally cleared away the last of the ice, they stood looking at something that took their breath away. The ship's surface was smooth and dark, like black glass. Strange symbols were carved into the metal, symbols that no human language had ever used. "It's beautiful," Yuna whispered. Hyun ran his hand along the ship's surface. "It's not cold," he said with surprise. "The metal feels warm." Minho checked his instruments. "It's the same temperature as the ice around it, but somehow it feels different." Jisoo was taking pictures of the strange symbols. "These look like writing, but I've never seen anything like them." As they worked around the ship, they found what looked like a door or hatch. It was sealed tight, but the outline was clear. Hyun studied it carefully. "I think I can open this," he said. "But once we do, there's no going back. If this really is what we think it is." Minho looked at each member of his team. They had all come to the Arctic to study ice and climate. None of them had expected to find proof that humans were not alone in the universe. "Are we ready for this?" he asked. They looked at the alien ship buried in the ice for 12,000 years. Whatever was inside had been waiting a very long time. Maybe it had been waiting for them. Yuna nodded first. Then Jisoo, then Hyun. "Let's see what's inside," Minho said. Hyun worked on the ship's door for 2 hours. The strange metal was harder than anything he had ever seen, but he was patient. Finally, there was a soft click and the door moved. "It's opening," he said, stepping back. The door slid sideways without any sound. Cool air came out of the ship, carrying a smell that was clean and strange. Minho shined his flashlight into the opening. The light showed a hallway that went deep into the ship. "The air is safe," Jisoo said, checking her instruments. "Same as outside, but warmer." "How is that possible?" Yuna asked. "This ship has been frozen for 12,000 years. They put on their safety gear and entered the ship one by one. The hallway was tall enough for humans to walk without bending over. The walls were smooth and curved, made from the same dark metal as the outside." "Look at this," Hyun said, pointing his light at the walls. There were lines of soft blue light running along the ceiling. As they walked deeper into the ship, the lights got brighter. "It's reacting to us," Minho said. "The ship knows we're here." The hallway led to a large room filled with strange equipment. There were control panels with symbols like the ones outside, but these were glowing. In the center of the room stood 3 tall glass containers. Yuna gasped when she saw what was inside them. "Those are people," she whispered. But they were not human people. The beings in the glass containers were tall and thin, with pale blue skin. Their heads were larger than human heads and their eyes were closed. They floated in some kind of clear liquid, not moving. "Are they dead?" Jisoo asked. Hyun checked the equipment around the containers. Numbers and symbols were moving on the screens. "I don't think so. These machines are still working. I think they're sleeping." "Sleeping for 12,000 years?" Minho said. Suddenly, the room filled with a humming sound. Lights came on everywhere, and the control panels began working faster. A voice spoke from somewhere in the walls. "Welcome," the voice said in perfect English. "I have been waiting for you." The 4 humans stood very still. The voice was calm and friendly, but it was coming from a ship that should have been dead for thousands of years. "Who are you?" Minho asked. "I am Keth, the mind of this vessel. I have been watching your species for many of your years. You have grown much in that time," Jisoo found her voice. "You speak our language. I learned your languages from your radio and television signals. Your species sends many messages into the sky. I've had much time to study them." The lights around the 3 sleeping beings began to pulse faster. "My passengers are waking," Keth said. "They have been sleeping since we crashed on your world. They will be happy to meet you. Who are they?" Yuna asked. "They are Veltar from a world far from here. We came to your planet seeking safety, but our ship was damaged. We had to land quickly." "During the Ice Age," Minho said. "Yes. Your world was much colder then. We thought it was not suitable for life, so we went into sleep mode to wait. But your radio signals woke me 20 of your years ago. I have been learning about humans since then." The liquid in the glass containers began to drain away. The 3 alien beings began to move slowly. "Are they dangerous?" Hyun asked. "The Veltar are peaceful," Keth said. "But they bring important news about dangers that come from the stars." The first container opened with a soft hiss. The tall, pale being inside opened its large eyes and looked at the humans. When it spoke, its voice was soft and musical. Keth translated. "Nethys says hello. She is the leader of this group. She thanks you for waking them." Nethys stepped out of the container on long, thin legs. She was wearing a suit made of the same material as the ship. Her eyes were completely black, but they seemed kind. The other 2 beings woke up more quickly. Keth told the humans their names were Vorik and Telesh. They were scientists like the human team. They want to know about your world, Keth said. Much has changed since they went to sleep. Jisoo stepped forward. As the team's language expert, she felt responsible for talking to the aliens. Our world has 7 billion people now. We have cities and technology. We can fly in the sky and even visit space. The three Veltar talked among themselves in their musical language. They seemed worried about something. What's wrong? Minho asked. Nethys spoke to Keth, who translated her words. She says your rapid development is both wonderful and terrible. Wonderful because you have grown wise and strong. Terrible because others will notice. Others? Yuna asked. The Devourers, Keth said. They are the reason the Veltar had to leave their home world. They destroy civilizations that become too advanced. The room became very quiet. Hyun was the first to speak. They destroy civilizations? Vorik, one of the scientist aliens, began working at a control panel. Images appeared in the air above them like a three-dimensional movie. The images showed beautiful worlds with cities and forests. Then they showed the same worlds burning and empty. The Devourers have been destroying worlds for millions of years, Keth explained. They wait for species to develop space travel and advanced technology. Then they come and take everything. Take everything, Minho asked. Resources, knowledge, and life itself. They consume entire civilizations. The Veltar escaped from their home world just before it was destroyed. Telesh, the third alien, spoke quickly to Nethys. She looked very worried. What is she saying? Jisoo asked. She is saying that your radio signals have been traveling through space for many decades. If the Devourers have monitoring stations, they already know about Earth. The humans looked at each other with growing fear. They had come to the Arctic to study ice. Now they were learning that Earth might be in terrible danger. How long do we have? Minho asked. Nethys worked at the control panel, bringing up more images. Star charts and numbers filled the air around them. Based on the location of their last known fleet, they could arrive in 12 to 18 of your months, Keth said. Less than 2 years, Yuna whispered. But there is hope, Nethys said through Keth. Your species is different from others we have seen. You fight. You adapt. You do not give up easily. This is rare in the galaxy. Most species surrender when the Devourers arrive, Vorik added through the translation. They believe resistance is impossible. But humans might be different. We can help you prepare, Telesh said. Our technology, combined with human creativity, might create something the Devourers have never seen before. Hyun looked at the alien technology around them. You would share your technology with us? The Veltar have been running for 300 years, Keth said. We are tired of running. If humans are willing to fight, we will fight with you. Minho felt the weight of what they had discovered. They had found more than an alien ship. They had found allies and a warning about humanity's greatest threat. What do we do first? He asked. Nethys smiled, and even though her face was alien, the expression was warm and hopeful. First, Keth translated, we teach you about the stars. The day the Devourers arrived, Earth was ready for them. Minho stood in the command center that had been built beneath the Arctic ice, watching screens that showed the space around Earth. Dark shapes were appearing at the edge of the solar system, moving toward humanity's homeworld with terrible purpose. Contact, announced Lieutenant Chen from the communication station. We have incoming transmission from the lead Devourer vessel. Put it on the main screen, General Park commanded. The screen filled with an image that made everyone in the command center hold their breath. The Devourer commander was exactly as the Veltar had described, tall, dark, with too many arms and eyes that glowed like burning coals. When it spoke, its voice was like breaking glass. Species of the third planet, the creature said in perfect English. You have developed technology that threatens the order of the galaxy. You will surrender immediately and prepare for consumption, or we will take what we need by force. Jisoo stepped forward to the communication panel. Over the past year, she had become humanity's voice to the galaxy. This is Dr. Jisoo Lee speaking for the people of Earth. We have a message for you. Speak quickly, the Devourer commander said. Our patience is limited. Our message is simple, Jisoo replied, her voice calm and clear. No. The alien's glowing eyes seemed to brighten with anger. You do not understand. We have consumed thousands of civilizations. Your resistance is meaningless, maybe, Jisoo said. But we're going to resist anyway. That's what humans do. The transmission ended abruptly. Around the command center, alarms began sounding as the Devourer fleet accelerated toward Earth. "All units, this is command," General Park announced over the radio. "The enemy is moving. Execute Operation Defiance." High above Earth, Commander Kim was leading the first squadron of human Veltar hybrid fighters. She could see the Devourer ships approaching, their black hulls seeming to absorb the light of the stars. "Dragon Squadron, this is Dragon Leader," she said over the radio. "Remember your training. Stay unpredictable, support each other, and make them pay for every inch of space." "Copy, Dragon Leader," came the replies from her pilots. "Let's show them what humans can do." The first battle began near Jupiter. Human ships, smaller and faster than anything the Devourers had fought before, darted between the massive enemy vessels like angry wasps attacking a bear. Yuna was flying Dragon 3, her modified weapon systems charging for another attack run. "These ships are huge," she reported, "but they move like they're thinking about every decision." "That's because they are." Vorik's voice came over the radio from the command center. "Devourers calculate the best strategy for every situation. They do not understand improvisation." "Then let's give them something to calculate," Commander Kim replied, leading her squadron in a diving attack that no military textbook had ever described. The human pilots fought like no species the Devourers had ever encountered. Instead of careful formations and logical tactics, they used wild maneuvers and impossible strategies that somehow worked. When Dragon Squadron was outnumbered 3-1, they split up and attacked from 6 different directions. When their primary weapons were damaged, they improvised new ways to fight using their repair tools as weapons. "Dragon 7 to command," reported pilot Zhang. "My main engines are gone, but I'm using the ship's construction tools to tear apart their hull plating." "Dragon 4 here," added pilot CO. "I've lost my targeting system, so I'm just pointing my ship at them and hoping for the best." "How is that working?" Commander Kim asked. "Pretty well, actually. I think they're confused." In the command center, Hyun was monitoring the battle data. The numbers should have been impossible, but somehow the human ships were holding their own. Against a vastly superior force, they're not fighting like the Devourers expect, he reported to General Park. "The enemy keeps trying to predict our next move, but our pilots keep doing things that don't make strategic sense." "Is that good or bad?" Minho asked. "It's working," Hyun replied with amazement. "We're actually winning some of these fights, but the Devourers were learning." After the first day of battle, they changed their tactics. Instead of trying to predict human behavior, they simply used overwhelming force to crush any resistance. "Command, this is Dragon Leader," Commander Kim reported. "They're bringing up the planet killers." These ships are the size of cities. On the main screen, everyone could see the massive Devourer vessels moving toward Earth. Each one carried weapons capable of destroying entire continents. "All ships, fall back to Earth defense perimeter," General Park ordered. "It's time for Phase 2. Nethys had been working with Earth's defense systems for months, combining Veltar technology with human orbital platforms. As the Devourer fleet approached, thousands of hidden weapons came online. "Surprise," Jisoo said over the open communication channel. The space around Earth erupted with weapons fire. Satellites that had looked like simple communication devices revealed themselves to be powerful energy cannons. Space stations that appeared to be scientific research facilities opened up to release swarms of attack drones. "Impossible," the Devourer commander's voice came over the radio. "These weapons did not exist in our intelligence reports." "That's because we built them specifically for you," Yuna replied from her fighter. Human gift wrapping. The battle raged for 3 days. Human ships, outnumbered 10-1, fought with a desperation and creativity that surprised even their Veltar allies. Talish was flying as a gunner in one of the hybrid ships. "I have never seen anything like this," he told Vorik over the radio. "Humans continue fighting even when their ships are falling apart. It's called stubbornness," Vorik replied. "I have learned it is one of humanity's greatest strengths." On the 3rd day, something unprecedented happened. A group of Devourer ships, damaged and outnumbered by human fighters, began to retreat. "They're running," Commander Kim reported in amazement. "The enemy is actually running away." But the victory was temporary. The main Devourer fleet was still approaching Earth, and humanity had lost half of its ships in the fighting. "This is it," General Park announced to all human forces. "Final defensive positions. Make every shot count." The last battle took place in the space between Earth and its moon. Every remaining human ship, every defense platform, every weapon they had built over the past year was brought to bear against the Devourer fleet. Minho found himself in the gunner seat of a research vessel that had been hastily converted to a fighter. "I never thought I'd be shooting at aliens," he said to Hyun, who was piloting their ship. "I never thought aliens would be shooting back," Hyun replied, dodging energy blasts from a Devourer cruiser. The battle seemed hopeless. For every Devourer ship they destroyed, 2 more took its place. Human ships were falling back toward Earth, their ammunition running low and their pilots exhausted. Then something unexpected happened. "Command, this is Dragon Leader." Commander Kim's voice came over the radio. "The Devourers are requesting communication." "What?" General Park said. "Put them through." The Devourer commander appeared on screen again, but this time he looked different. His glowing eyes were dimmer, and his voice carried something that sounded almost like respect. "Species of Earth," he said. "We have underestimated you." "That was your first mistake," Jisoo replied. "In 3 days of battle, you have cost us more ships than we have lost in the past century. Your tactics are disturbing. We prefer to call them effective." The alien paused, seeming to consider his words carefully. "We offer new terms. Surrender now, and we will consume your species quickly and without suffering. Continue to resist, and we will destroy your entire world." Jisoo looked around the command center at the faces of humans and Veltar working together. They were tired, scared, and running out of options, but none of them looked ready to give up. "Let me ask my people," she said. She muted the communication and spoke to the room. "What do you say? Do we surrender to save Earth from destruction?" The answer came not from the command center, but from every human ship still fighting in space. "Dragon 2 here. No surrender. Orbital Platform 5, we keep fighting. Defense Station Alpha, we stand together. Research Ship Beta, for humanity." The voices kept coming. From every human position still active in the battle, not one person was willing to give up. Jisoo turned back to the screen and reactivated the communication. "We have our answer." "And?" the Devourer commander asked. "We said no the first time, and we're saying no again. If you want Earth, you'll have to take it from us." The alien's eyes flared with anger. "Then you have chosen extinction." "Maybe," Jisoo said. "But we've also chosen to be free." The final assault began immediately. Devourer ships poured toward Earth with every weapon they had, but the humans were ready for them. Hidden weapons that no one had expected activated across the solar system. The moon itself opened up to reveal massive defense cannons that the humans had been building in secret for months. "You want to know the difference between humans and every other species you've fought?" Jisoo asked over the open channel as the battle raged around them. "Enlighten us," the Devourer commander said. "Every other species fought you to survive," she replied. "We're fighting you because we're angry." The battle lasted 18 hours. When it ended, both fleets were badly damaged. But something had happened that had never occurred in Devourer history.